So welcome back to the channel. I'm out on my local patch this morning. It's quite cold. There's still a lot of berries on the trees here, and I just literally a couple minutes from my house and decided to come out with the Canon 1D X3 and the EF 200 to 400 f4 to 5.6 when the 1.4 telly is engaged. Obviously an inbuilt telly converter inside the lens. The reason why I'm going to do this little kind of impromptu video is that I'm getting a lot of questions through my channel and through social media about how I find the 200 to 400. A lot of people saying that the prices have dropped a little and they're quite interested in buying one. And it's a lens that I've had now for probably about 20 months and I use it quite a lot. I can handhold this quite comfortably. It is a zoom lens, so that 200 to 400, as I said, with that built-in telly, which gives you 560. And you know, occasionally I do find it sometimes it can be a little soft, but other days it can just absolutely nail it. So the built-in 1.4 telly is calibrated and fitted to this lens. It's not like putting a 1.4 telly on a fixed prime lens like a 400, 500, where that extender telly converter is not calibrated to that lens, I guess, unless you have it properly done at Canon. So it's one of those things that this would work better on this lens because it is matched to the rest of the lens itself. And some days, you know, it absolutely nails it. For video, this lens is superb with that focal range from 200 to 560. Really, really good. I find the AF is superb. The IS is great. You know, and to have that zoom range for photographic subjects, this is the sort of lens you can take out all day with you and it will deliver in all conditions that you need it. So you can get in the landscape shops with wildlife. You can then go tight in on a crop, on a larger bird or mammal at 560. It really is, you know, quite a flexible lens and a really, really good one. Saves you taking out a prime, another zoom, having to chop and change, flip of a switch, straight into 560 or knock it back and using it at 400 at f4. So a really, really good lens. So I just thought I'd go around my local meadow today, just testing it out on a few subjects, see where we are. It's very dull, very overcast. Not the ideal conditions, but still we're going to get out, have a go with it and see if we can capture some small birds. Over the last sort of week, we've had a red-tailed hawk, which is now frequenting the meadow every day. Usually I see it in the latter part of the day, but this morning I was out early and it was parked up in one of the big trees. So it looks like it's on territory here quite a bit. There's lots of coyote scat here, fox poo, etc. And there's lots of vole activity in the ground here. So I'm hoping maybe we get to see the hawk and see if we can get some shots with the 2 to 4 here today. But yeah, it's good just to try it out. I find it soft on some occasions, and I don't know necessarily why that is. I can't really isolate that, but 9 times out of 10, it does deliver great pin sharp images. And it's a lens that's not really been covered an awful lot. And I love it. You know, I bought it for that reason, for that flexibility, for that video work, and a lens you can take out, you know, with you all day, and you don't have to take any other lenses out with you. But right, just gonna head around the meadow. It's quite a large area, and hopefully we'll find some birds. So, just come across this little copse of woodland here. Now, there's at the moment quite a bit going on. So we've got house finches, which are really, really pretty looking finches, which got a lovely rosy red colour on them. And in here, there's lots of seed heads, almost like keys, they call them, that a lot of those birds are feeding on. So it's a seed-eating bird, and that's feeding on those. It's very, very hard to get a picture of it though, because it's right in the clutter here. You've got chickadees in there. We've also got white-breasted nuthatches in there, some northern cardinals as well. So there's buckthorn berries in here. So they're feeding on those too, especially some of the chickadees. And I've come across like a crab apple tree here, which is lovely. Nothing's been eating it, so it's a strange one. So quiet, but I mean, there's a lovely, lovely apples on there. Just gonna have a quick set up here and see if we could, maybe something will come in. Right, let's have a get this camera set up. Yeah. So I'm just set up here now, just behind this old stump here, hoping that we'll get the red-tailed hawk to come gliding through the meadow. There's a few vantage points for it to perch on. Fingers crossed we might get it coming through. Hopefully not too high and relatively low. But just a few considerations with this lens. Now, I bought it primarily, as I said, for video because it allows me that zoom range, really, really usable from 200 to 560. It's quite lightweight, really, considering the size of it. So I can comfortably handhold it as well. And it gives you up to 4 stops of image stabilization as well. It's got 3 modes, 1, 2, and 3. 1 for sort of normal static stuff, 2 from moving side to side, and for 3 for more erratic subjects. 9 times out of 10, I have it set to 3. And that image stabilization then kicks in at moment of capture. It allows for all that movement, etc. You can read into the various modes, but it's a really good mode for the wildlife photographer. It can also be used as well by you know, landscape photographers even. I mean, I don't know why we want to use one necessarily because it's so big, but certainly wildlife in the environment is great. You know, at 200mm at f4, really, really nice. Also really, you know, aviation photographers, a really, really good lens and rather popular. And that's the key there, versatility. You know, you have got that flexibility with it. You know, it is a zoom lens, bear that in mind. Over a prime lens, yes, the prime lenses are probably a lot sharper. You do get a bit of pin cushioning as well when you engage the 1.4 tele inbuilt. The same as you'd use if you were using a prime lens really, and you stick a teleconverter on, you get a bit of barrel distortion sometimes. So there are negatives there. You stick a 1.4 tele in, you know, onto it, you'll get better results with the inbuilt than you would if you put one on another lens. That is kind of evident. But the IS, incredibly snappy. The image quality is great. As I said, I get a little bit of softness sometimes. Now, I don't know whether that's just down to me, maybe not fast enough shutter speed. I don't really know, but most of the time it delivers fantastically well. You know, you've got to remember as well, as a zoom lens, you know, it may not quite be as snappy as a prime. Certainly 300 2.8, 400 f2.8, you know, if you go 500 f4, you know, those lenses are notoriously nippier and faster on the AF and the IS, but this lens is no slug. It really does hit the mark. And as I said, the versatility of the lens is kind of, you know, amazing really. And if you want to cut down on your lens choice, you know, there are other options there. You know, you can use 70-200, 100-400, then you're shooting at 5.6 as well, top end at 400 here. You got 560 at f5.6, so you are a stop up. But I think this will have a sweet spot. I find it nice at 6.3, 7.1, and even at f8, it's really, really nice. But all in all, I bought it for a good price at the time. It's a mint condition lens. It's absolutely fantastic. I'm hoping to test it a little bit more, but there's a few of the specifications there. There's loads more online. Read the specs on it. You know, it will explain things a lot more, but kind of using it in the field, I find when I'm tracking subjects that mammal species, birds in flight, it's all over it. I've used it on the R3, I've used it on the R7, which gives you that extended reach. You know, it really does fit the bill, and I'm well happy with the lens. I know a lot of people that say they're a little bit soft. I think it all depends on the situation, atmospheric distortion, lots of other variables in there as well. But 9 times out of 10, the lens delivers. I've not really used it on the DX3 much, hence why I wanted to bring it out today and have a go. But we're just getting a little bit of snow coming in now, very, very light. But on the bird front, it's a tad quiet, so I'm hoping at the moment I've got the focus point set to single spot for lots of the smaller stuff in amongst the trees, but as hopefully the bird of prey comes across, I'll select probably middle spot with surround, and that'll enable me then to hopefully capture that bird as it comes across. Fingers crossed really. I'm a bit masked here where I am, so I'm hoping maybe that the hawk will come across. Now this hawk is notoriously twitchy. I've seen it now over a week, and every time I get slightly close to it, it's gone. So I'm hoping I'm tucked out the way enough and it'll come across and maybe give us a flyby and we can get some shots in the bag. I'm just sheltering out of the weather here because it has started snowing now, so very, very lightly. So I'm just in amongst the trees here. Another thing you've got to think about is that if you generally stick to a zoom range, so if you're using a lens with focal length of 200, you could get a lens that's the 200 f2, you can get a lens that's 70 to 200 f4, f2.8. If you stick at the 300 range, you could get a 300 f2.8. And if you stick at the 400 range, so the max for this without the teleconverter engaged, you're looking at a 400 f2.8 Mark II or whatever. They obviously are going to serve you a lot better. And using a 400 or a 2.8 with a telly on it, you will get good results at f4, over f5.6 for things like low light. But it depends what you need. It really does. If you're primarily, I've got a 300 2.8 and it's an absolute gem of a lens. I don't use it that much. I probably use it maybe, lucky if I use it once a month. But it's a great lens, very, very sharp, and the optics are amazing. So f2.8 over this, f5.6, obviously the f2.8 is going to win every time. But as I said before, the versatility of the lens, that's what you want it for. You want to go out, you want to be one lens on your tripod, handheld, a flick of a switch. You can go from 200 to 560. It's great. Rather than having to fumble around, putting teleconverters on, swapping lenses. For wildlife photography, you want to have one lens for the job, get out there and shoot. And with this, all day long, take this out and you won't need to change lenses. That's one good thing about it. If you're in a pinch and you've got deer and stuff and you're in concealment, you're in a hide, you've got stuff moving towards you, you suddenly find that a deer's right in front of you and you can go back to 200, get a nice shot, headshot, crop in 560, get a detailed headshot or crop out. You can get a bird in the environment, deer in the environment. You've got that sort of flexibility with this lens, and it really, really is good. And if I'm going anywhere and I'll travel fairly light, and I say fairly light loosely at 3.2 kilograms, and the 1DX3 is a bit of a brick as well. You've got one lens for the day. You don't have to then pack other lenses. And when you're changing lenses outside in the field, dust, grime, wet, dirt gets in there. It's nice just to mount it on the body, at home, in the car, get out with it, use it all day. Yeah, happy days. Weather sealing speaks for itself. It's an L lens, so it's going to be fully weather sealed. So the zoom ring is forward positioned, and then you've got the focus ring just behind it. Nice, fairly smooth operation. And you've got the PF function here as well, power function now, which is good for zooming, giving you that focus when you're doing video. Same as I've got on the 500 f4 Mark II as well. But we're not going to get like amazing results today with it. It's more getting out in the field, really, just hoping we can put it through its paces and get a few shots of the hawk. But if that snow continues to fall and gets heavier, I haven't got my my lens cover with me as much as it's an L lens. I don't like to get it absolutely soaking wet if I can help it. I'll just head back in and pop out another day. But you'll certainly see some images at the end taken with this lens. And as I said, I've only owned it for about 20 months, but I spent a lot of time using it photographing peregrine falcons when I was back in the UK. But please, if you've got any questions as well, just please leave them in the vlog description, contact me through social media, and hopefully I'll be able to answer those for you. There are some amazing reviews out there that go so in depth, histograms, low light performance, you name it, there's some really, really good reviews there that can answer a lot of your questions. But for me, I just really wanted to speak to people about it. I write very long emails and very long messages via Instagram and Facebook when people are asking me about this lens. I just thought I could talk about it a little bit, give you a bit of a breakdown on what my thoughts are with it. I only bought it, as I said, not long ago. So for me, I felt that there was a gap in what I had, and this could fit the bill. I've got quite a lot of lenses. I've got 100mm, 70-200, 100-500, 800 RF, 500 f4, 300 2.8, this. What else have I got? I got a 400 EF, got a 70-200 EF as well as the RF version. So I got loads of lenses there. And but for me, this one, I could quite happily go out all day and shoot with it. And if I want to go light, if I took the 500 prime out with me, I've only got 500. I'm either too close and then I'm stuffed. I can't then change anything. I can take tellies with me if I want more reach. But on a whole, this is a wildlife photographer's lens for sure. So that snow is starting to come down a bit now. And I've still had no sign of that red-tailed hawk. But let's hope video will come in soon. So guys, just moved location now, tucked behind this fir tree here. Got a nice wide expanse again, just going to sit tight, but whilst I'm waiting, because it is pretty quiet, it's just talk through some of the downsides of the teleconverter. Additionally, if you put any other glass in front of the element, it's going to cause a little bit of a soft effect, slightly. And as I said before, you're probably going to get better results with the teleconverter that's built into this camera, as it's matched and calibrated to that lens, than you would if you put on an extender onto another lens. So that's something to bear in mind. When you do engage the tele, you find that the AF speed and the AF accuracy does drop off slightly, as it would when you start to introduce that extra magnification there. That will affect it slightly. I've not seen it hugely noticeable, but it's better when subjects are moving away from you than when subjects are moving towards you. You know, it all depends on the situation and the light at the time. So that's something to bear in mind as well. But you do that with any sort of teleconverter, that does happen. Also, the chromatic aberration, or color fringing it's called, is pretty much absent at the 200 to 400 range. As soon as you engage that teleconverter, then you do get a slight bit of CA introduced in there, but it is quite minimal, and that also all dependent on the lighting conditions at the time. But you know, some of these are negative things, but it's like, you know, just really nitpicking, to be honest. The lens itself delivers optical quality, weatherproofing, fast AF, flexibility on the zoom range. It really is one all-round package. And if you're starting out in photography and you want to go to a bigger lens, go to zoom lens, and you want a lens that can deliver in most, if not all situations, then a 200 to 560 zoom range is fantastic. You really can't go far wrong. I wish I bought this lens years ago, to be honest, but I just didn't at the time, and they're rather expensive to buy new. And this is still a current Canon lens at the moment, so you know, it can still be purchased, but I think they're about £13,500 in the UK, which is considerably high. But that's just some little things to bear in mind if you're thinking about this lens. As I said, there's tons of reviews online with some very in-depth reviews for people that know a lot more about the physical makeup of the lens and how it shoots in all environments. For me, out every day, shooting from the hip, doing what I need it to do, it delivers. Very little issue with it at all. Yeah, what more can I say? It's a great lens, and I would definitely wholeheartedly recommend it to anybody for wildlife photography. It is just such a good lens, you know, it really is. And aviation, I mean, it's a great flexibility for aviation as well. But right, gonna go quiet a minute and see if that hawk turns up, and hopefully we'll get some shots in the bag. So one thing worth noting with this lens is that when you're actively focusing and the IS is engaged, it's never flick the extender switch whilst it's working. Apparently that can damage the electronics. It can lead to Canon having to service or sort the lens out. It does cause damage, apparently. I've not actually done that, I don't think. I may have done it when I first had it, but mine has since been for a service and a clean, so I'd imagine it had been sorted and it had been calibrated as well. So, but that's one thing to bear in mind. Whilst the camera's working, the focus, the IS, it's never push the switch until it's relaxed and stopped working. It speaks for itself, I guess, that it could obviously damage the internals there, and you may have to get that re-looked at. So I don't know enough about it, but apparently that is something to be aware of, and a Canon service engineer has said you've got to be careful when you do that. So that's something to bear in mind in the heat of the moment when you wanted to zoom back out. If you wanted to undo the extender, if you wanted to shoot tight because something's working towards you in the hurry, you've got to wait for it to stop working. Yeah, that could become a problem. But most of the time you can sort of preempt that and obviously change and then wait till it goes silent and then engage it again. Just something to bear in mind if you've got this lens and you didn't know that, or if you're going to buy the lens, then you know not to do that. So just a little tip there, guys. So I'm kind of having to shoot 2 stops over at the moment. because it is quite overcast, although the sun is now starting to peek out, which is really, really nice, just to bring some of those dark areas out. And that's what you can do, to be honest, you know, when you're in a situation like this, where it's overcast, quite dull, and you're shooting and you think you've got the correct exposure on a darker bird, darker background, in amongst some trees, is just increase that exposure compensation. Have a look at your histogram, check there's no clipping on each end, the dark areas, the light areas, check the midtones. You kind of want that nice mountain in the middle, and hopefully with that overexposure, you can then bring that sort of detail out in the darker areas. Bearing in mind, if you're shooting in a bright background, then it can overexpose the sky, etc. Something to bear in mind. But if it's a plain sky, then you can bring that down in post-processing as well. But just something to bear in mind. It's good to do a few test shots, especially on this berry bush here, which I did earlier on, is just to see what it would be like. And now I'm shooting. It's kind of like near just under 2 stops, I think I am at the moment. And you can vary that accordingly as that light changes, but just something to be aware of. I really like using the Canon 1DX on the 200 to 400. Say it's a great camera, and it's a dual pixel CMOS sensor AF on here. So, you know, the focus points are fantastic. So when you're shooting in normal with the optical, you know, you're getting 191 focus points and you're getting 155 cross type points as well, which is fantastic. And if you're shooting live view in the back, brilliant when you're shooting, especially in low light. You've got pretty much the whole of the frame, the viewfinder for focus points. You've got 3,869 focus points, I think, at the back, shooting when it's hybrid mode. So, you know, you've got so much more selectable areas. So if you're shooting live view at the back, yes, you can't look through the viewfinder and get it on the screen as projected through the viewfinder. You can only do it from the back of the screen. But if you're tracking a subject and you're focusing, it's absolutely fantastic. So say a barn owl in low light flying towards you, you've got it at the back of the camera, just starts to train on that bird. You know, the focus points are fantastic. So it really does capture that bird in motion, flying with those additional thousands of extra focus points. It's grouped into certain areas, I think. I don't know the ins and outs of it, but certainly enough to capture the action anyway. But yeah, it's a great combo on the 2 to 4 as well. Really, really like it in a situation like this, especially when I've got an open area, see things coming towards me. If a bird does come this way, hawk comes over, I can guarantee I'm going to capture the action. Would I switch over to the live view at the back using all of those AF points? Possibly, if I could got it in the frame coming towards me. Gives me that much better ability then to capture that bird with the autofocus as it would, opposed to using the optical. But it's a hybrid at the end of the day, and obviously after this one came the R3. But it's a really, really good option, and it's great on this lens. So guys, I'm back out again with the 200-400 on a slightly brighter day. Really, really nice. Just had the red-tailed hawk in, which has been superb. Just set up in the tree line and it came across. Sadly though, I got some video and a few stills, but it was up in right where the sun was, so it was silhouetted heavily, but I managed to get a little bit of video and a few stills when it flew and then went onto its favoured perch. So chuffed to bits to see it. But it's much, much colder today. We got -7 and tomorrow we got 12 centimetres of snow. So I wanted to get out really and have a look, and get out on the meadow and just have a go. There's a few things around, a few nuthatches, a few chickadees, and there's a bit of snow on the ground today as well, which is really, really nice. Adds to a bit more of an effect there, but managed to capture some nuthatches and the chickadees and a woodpecker or two in amongst the forest there with a little bit of snow in the background, which has been lovely. And so they're all captured with the 200 to 400. It's nice to see the weather pick up a little bit now, and the sun is out and it's warming my legs, which is quite nice. My hands are just about coming back to life at the moment. I've just come around a different side of the woodland. This is a nice little sheltered spot here. It's a lot warmer and I'm getting a lot more activity of smaller bird species going through. And as I said before, I can quite happily handhold this lens. It's never really an issue. And I made a correction. I think earlier on I said it was 3.2 kilograms. It's actually 3.6 kilograms. But still quite pleasant to hold, not for like long periods. And it's obviously a lot better when I'm using it with the R3 or the R7 because the bodies are much lighter. The DX3 is still quite a lump. So, you know, it does add to that weight a little bit. But I can do it quite comfortably. Good arm support, beanbag support, using a stump or tree, you know, ideal. But it's workable, but at the moment, especially for video, not with 1DX3, no image stabilization there, it wouldn't be ideal. So there are a few negatives there, I guess, for that, but for tripod use, absolutely fantastic. And I'm shooting bang out at 560 at the moment, but and I'm knocking it up to f6.3 now that the light's a lot better. But I'm going to stay hopeful for something coming across. Maybe, might be lucky enough to get a harrier coming across. It's a lovely wide open space and there's lots and lots of vole activity. And now it's warmed up, hopefully the voles will be coming out and actively feeding, and then we may get a chance for a bird of prey or something to come in. But keep those fingers well and truly crossed as always. So we just had a bunch of chickadees just coming in. Got a fairly nice little picture there. There we go, nice little chickadee. Nice and sharp. No softness with that picture whatsoever. Lovely little bird to focus on there. Little chickadees coming through, little flocks of them. So these are the black-capped version, not the boreal, but nevertheless, to hear a cheeky little chickadee going on is really quite nice. Lifts the spirits as they're foraging around, and it's got to be so difficult for them to keep themselves in condition when it gets this cold. And obviously it's not even really plummeted yet. But they are forever busy, just foraging for little insects, whatever they can eat, bits of fruit, seed, you name it. And they obviously change their diet accordingly as well from different seasons, and get whatever they can to keep them going. Because obviously you have to put on that body fats to survive through the winter. So we finally just had some waxwings in on the crab apples. Not loads, just a few, working their way through. It was really, really nice. Managed to get some quite distance footage of the waxwings on this. They were cedar waxwings. Been waiting for waxwings for ages, and I finally managed to capture. So I've got some video, but at distance, so I'm gonna have to crop in quite hard on them. So I'm really, really pleased there, guys, of seeing those waxwings and seeing the thrushes as well, all within the last hour. I came here the other day and I did 6 hours and I saw very few species. Didn't see any waxwings, and I didn't see the red-tailed hawk. No, really pleased to see the waxwings. I was really, really hoping for waxwings. And then finally we get them. And just a good fair distance, I guess, but you know, if I was trying to encroach a little closer, then I would likely flush the birds away from the food. But to get them on the crabapple is fantastic, and we've just had them work their way along to the common buckthorn, as well as a couple American robins there. So not loads of birds, but a few, and it certainly breaks up the quiet patches that I've had here. My hands are dropping off. I need to put on my outer gloves on now, and I'm hoping maybe a few more waxwings will come in, and maybe that hawk. But yeah, chuffed to bits. Saved my bacon a little bit there because it's been a bit thin on the ground, but that's the way it goes. You know, it's just wildlife photography, but it's great, and I'm chuffed to bits. So I hope you enjoyed that kind of run through really of the Canon EF 200-400 to 560 with the 1.4 telly built in. It's not in depth, guys. It's just literally as I see it when I'm out in the field shooting with it. I love it. There's a few little downsides I've gone through, but very little. It's a great lens. Versatility is amazing. The weatherproofing, the build quality, the weight, it's all good. I did my research, loved the lens, bought it, and I haven't regretted it at all. It's there, it's in my kit bag, and I do use it quite a lot. So if you're thinking about getting a Canon EF 200-400 with a 1.4, I would wholeheartedly recommend it massively. You know, it really is a good lens, and you can go out and shoot in it all day, and you're not going to need anything else. For me, that's a pretty damn good thing. You could stick it in a single bag, take it with you all day. Low light, yeah, 5.6, it'll do the job. Cameras now, as we're all well aware, can shoot high ISO. So if you're out with this and you're shooting at f5.6, wide open, with a high ISO, you're going to be fine. It's going to be a great lens for all situations. Yes, it's not going to beat an f2.8, is it? But it is what it is. But to get that zoom range from 200 to 560, it's a great lens. And if the prices are dropping, I'd grab yourself one, definitely. I don't think there's a replacement out at the moment in the RF. There is something coming, but when it hit the streets, who knows? But this is still a current lineup lens for Canon, and they're still servicing these. You still can pick them up, I think, for 12,050 quid, I think, something like that. And on the second-hand market, obviously considerably cheaper. So for me, really, I just wanted to give you my personal opinion of what I thought of this lens. And hopefully that answers some of the questions that people have been asking me through social media. And if you've got anything else for me, please just leave it in the vlog description or contact me through email or through social media. But from me, I'll see you all next time.